They want me to change, but I ain't changing. Nah.
And you are not tuned into another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you in concert with A Beautiful Machine magazine. And y'all already know, man, the mighty Nerd DJs Radio Network. Man, week after week, day after day, year after year, we only rock with legends around here. And today is absolutely no exception. We have the president of PowerPoint Group, one of the founding members of PULSEBEAT Media, graduate of Cornell University. How many brothers you know went to Cornell first and foremost, and then graduated? One of the dopest individuals to ever grace the galaxy and the solar system, Mr. Greg Dunmore. How you doing, King?
And I am doing better now that I'm talking to Jobs.
I like that. Hello?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
I said, how's your family doing?
Oh, my family's doing well. I am blessed and I am highly favored. And you know what? I've got a new family, and that is the Intellectually Petty Radio family. So I want to, anyone who is listening, we're family. If you're listening, you are family, and I am wishing you the best. So we are blessed and highly favored.
Absolutely, man. Yo, okay, so where does it start for you? Why Cornell?
Well, now, let me tell you the short version. Cornell is an Ivy League school. I didn't know it was an Ivy League school. I went to Cornell because I was living in Mexico. I lived in La Capital con los Chilangos. And when I was in Mexico City, after having been there for 3 years, I was attending La Universidad de Mexico, and I had to come back to the United States. I was in the library of the State Department, the American Embassy, and a pamphlet fell on the floor, and it said, "Study Industrial and Labor Relations at Cornell University." And I'm from Detroit, so I thought, well, now I had a background in Spanish, and I said, well, what kind of job can I get with a background in Spanish? That was done out of love. But I said, in terms of out of the, well, should I say the love of money or the necessity of money, I need to find out what I can do to make some loot. So industrial and labor relations sounded very technical, and I'm from Detroit, where, the labor capital because of the UAW. So I said Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. So and the very short of the story is because a pamphlet fell on the floor in the library of the American Embassy in Mexico City. That was my introduction to my academic journey to Cornell University.
Okay, so I must have missed something in the bio, because first off, what side of Detroit? I need to know.
I'm from northwest side of Detroit. I grew up a block away from U of D, and for those who are listening in other parts of the world, it is University of Detroit. So that's the northwest side of Detroit.
Okay, the best side is the west side. I grew up on 7 Mile Southfield. Shout out to y'all. How the fuck did you end up in Mexico, though?
Well, now, another fascinating story. My mother had one sibling, one brother. His name is Walter Thompson. Okay. He was the first African-American to teach foreign language at Wayne State University, which is, for those who are listening, a very noted school that's in Detroit proper. And so as a kid, I was around my uncle, and he went on to get a PhD in linguistics. He spoke 7 different languages, and then he went to medical school, and he became a psychiatrist with a specialty in internal medicine. So I was blessed to come from a very academically blessed family. So if it had not been for my uncle, who also studied at the University of Mexico, I know I probably would not have looked at Mexico as being part of my journey, as part of my reality. So it's because I had a black man from Detroit that I called uncle that went to Mexico, that was my role model to know that life is beyond 8 Mile.
That's crazy. Okay, so then you decide, okay, Cornell. What's the experience like in Cornell for a brother from Detroit? Is it as bad as people would envision it, or is it better than people thought?
Well, I'll tell you that I loved being in Ithaca, which is in upstate New York. And when I tell people I went to school in New York, they only think of Manhattan. And New York, of course, is a state.
Yeah.
And to have been in Ithaca is like being in the UP in terms of the foliage is beautiful, gorgeous, and the river, and just all of the beauty of nature. So I was in a very picturesque setting,
Mhm.
but it's funny because I don't know if I had to do it again, if I would have gone to Cornell. I think I would have stayed in Mexico, or I would have gone somewhere else, even though I didn't know Cornell was an Ivy League school. My brother went to Harvard. I knew that Harvard was an Ivy League school, but I did not know that Cornell was such a prestigious school. You knew when you said, oh yeah, like how many black people do you know that go to Cornell? Cornell, I would tell people I'm going to go to Cornell. Oh, you must be smart. And I'm thinking, well, I guess. I had no idea. It was probably around 2 months that I found out that Cornell, like Yale and Harvard, was also a part of the very prestigious Ivy League. So being in that environment, which was predominantly white, a lot of Jewish people, non-black, and coming from the blackest city, probably of any city in the United States, Detroit,
Facts.
it wasn't culture shock, but it was an environment that was different from being used to being around a lot of black people. Now, when I lived in Mexico, of course, I was around Mexicans, but I probably had never been in an environment where I was truly in the minority.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a lot of white people, and this is also the truth. I've never told anybody this is a scoop. I am a person that embraces humankind, but I am biased about black folk. And one of the blessings is we have melanated skin. So I remember when I was at Cornell, I would see all these pale people, and I couldn't wait until the sun would shine bright so they can get that suntan, because I'm used to being around melanated people. So all of these white people, I'm sure they were beautiful people, in terms of the content of their character, but there's nothing that is more uplifting than being around people who look healthy. And melanated skin, for me, subliminally symbolizes people who are healthy. And that's just a fact. I've never told anybody that. And if you're white listening to me, I'm not trying to say you look sickly, but you look better when you go to the tanning salon. We're just blessed that we don't have to pay for the tanning salon. God gave it to us. You guys might have to buy it.
Yeah,
Those are for our white listeners.
I'll take that too, bro. Okay, so all right, you graduate Cornell.
Yes.
What's the big picture and what's the reality for the first, let's say, 5 years after graduation?
Well, the 5 years after the graduating from a very prestigious school, I really always knew this, but there's a prestige when you go to a school that is as noted as a Cornell or a Harvard or a Yale or a Princeton, but 2 + 2 is equal to 4.
Yeah.
At Wayne State, at Cornell, 2 + 2 is equal to 4. At the back alley trap house, if you learned it there. So what I learned was, it's not the prestige of where you pick up the knowledge, and it's not even the knowledge, is what you do with the knowledge. Yeah. So that's what I learned in terms of my journey was, I went to a prestige school, and people sometimes, if they know the reputation, they will favor me based on the reputation of my academic training. But at the end of the day, 2 + 2 is equal to 4, no matter where you learn it. And it's not, like I said, where you learn it, it's the knowledge, and not even the knowledge, is what you do with the knowledge. So in my journey, I think that I have become balanced, because appreciation of knowledge is real, and knowing that knowledge is power, then what do you do with the power? So that motivates me. What do you do with the power? My mantra is not about the moment. Moments are fleeting, they come and go. It's about the movement. So I know that Cornell was just a moment in a movement that is still being turned, and hopefully in the right direction.
So at what point do you decide, okay, I want to go into the media? And Mildred Gaddis is like such a giant, especially in the Detroit area. Oh my! How do you meet up with Mildred Gaddis?
Well, it's interesting because you know what? My radio background is kind of fascinating because I also worked for, and I hope that you are. See, I don't say old enough because I don't like that word. I don't really like the word old because I just don't. I like the word, are you seasoned enough? You know, we don't become older, we become more seasoned. And so are you seasoned enough to know the name Martha Jean the Queen? Do you know who that name is? You don't know her?
Yes.
Well, I used to work for Martha Jean the Queen.
Oh, damn.
So she was a real trailblazer as the second African-American woman in these United States to own a radio station. And that was WQBH, which stands for Welcoming the Queen Back Home. So I worked for her. And then my dad, Al Dunmore, was a legendary award-winning journalist for the Michigan Chronicle. So as a kid, I grew up in a media background. My father was a journalist. And so that was just part of my DNA. And I ended up sort of falling into the media via the Michigan Chronicle. And then Mildred Gaddis became part of the journey distinctively. And by the way, if those folk who don't know the name, she is the queen, the reigning queen of talk radio. I love Mildred Gaddis. She is one of my guiding lights still. And Mildred knew me not so much from Detroit, but because of our mutual friend, the Queen of Soul, the Empress of Music, Aretha Franklin. And I would see.
Did you say friend?
Friend, yeah. You know, I mean, yeah, she was a dear friend of mine. As a matter of fact, I've never said this publicly, but I am the person that took the undertaker, the mortician, to Aretha's apartment when she died. And that was O'Neill Swanson, because she and I were not only friends, but we were neighbors. So when the world was waiting on what was going to be the status of her health, I was among the very first to know that she had taken her last breath. And outside of where I live, I saw O'Neill Swanson, who is I'm no longer here himself, but he has is still around, Swanson Funeral Home.
Yeah, crazy.
And so he knew the building she lived in, but he didn't know the actual apartment. So I took O'Neill to Aretha's apartment. And when I think about it now, I'm thinking, wow, that was really a point of history that I was part of, that this international icon that I was a fan of when I was very young and throughout, still a big fan of Aretha's, but I didn't know my destiny before I met her was to become a friend and a neighbor and to escort the mortician, the undertaker, to her apartment, as will be the reality of all of us, that we live and we shall die one day.
Yeah, that sucks. Let me ask you this, totally irrelevant, but if I gave you two options, billionaire or live forever, which one would you take?
I would take billionaire. I would take billionaire. Now, you didn't say, can you live forever and be a billionaire? But the reason I would say billionaire over living forever is that I would like to believe that on this earthly journey, I have done something that will merit the golden gates of heaven to welcome me with open arms. So therefore, I would love to be a billionaire on this earthly journey and to do something that will be part of the equation that God will use to say yay or nay as it relates to being into this place where you live in a paradise that is what we all hopefully shall be blessed. And some of us won't be so blessed because we're going to go to that other place.
Yeah.
But
Not
I would
everybody's
like
going to
to
heaven.
feel
There's some of
a
y'all niggas
billionaire
going
would
to
be
hell.
led into the gates of heaven.
I'm just saying. I've been working on my shit. Some of y'all resume is trash and y'all going to hell.
Well, there you have it.
Nothing y'all family can say about that shit after you die. You still gonna be burning the fuck up. Excuse me.
That's the truth. And you know what? Somebody told me that I'm a big fan of Harriet Tubman and what she symbolizes as a freedom fighter and as an iconic name. And somebody said, never argue with anybody that Harriet Tubman would have shot. And so the folks she would have shot also are the folks that are going to that other place. There's heaven and there's that other place. So the folks that Harriet Tubman would have shot, those are the folks that, you know,
don't fuck with them.
Hey, there you have it.
All right, so Mildred Gaddis, are you on the radio at this time after Mildred Gaddis, or are you behind the scenes?
No, you know what? I'm not on the radio. I've got a television show, and I don't know if we're going to talk about that. I mean, I hope we do. I'm on TV now. You know about that. You know that I have a TV show.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I got a television show. Now, I was on radio. I was on 910. It was called the Greg Dunmore Vibe. And then before that, I had a show called Can We Talk with Kim and Greg? And I did a show with Kim Moore, who is now one of the co-owners of One Mic with Horace Sheffield and Mike Epps. But I haven't done radio for maybe a couple of years, but I've got a television show. It comes on TV 20. WMYD, which is part of the ABC family, is owned by WXYZ Channel 7. And I come on every Sunday morning. It's called PULSEBEAT, PULSEBEAT, with Greg Dunmore. It is the first television show to be awarded the highest honor in television broadcasting by the National Association of Black Journalists, their Salute to Excellence Award. And I am the first person in arts and entertainment and culture to have ever won that in television. And the show is also Emmy nominated, and it's produced by the 3-time Emmy Award winner, Joel Boykin. So that's what I'm doing right now every Sunday morning from 6:30 until 7 a.m. on TV 20 in the Metro Detroit market. And you can see it globally if you go to PulseBeatGlobal.com. That's PULSEBEATGLOBAL.com. And their encore showings also on TV 33 WHPR Detroit Live, which is owned by the history-making R.J. Watkins.
Yo, R.J. Watkins is a GOAT, bro. I don't know if that man gets enough credit. That that man been putting in work.
Yes. And sing his praises, because he owns his station. It is an outlet that is worthy of everyone's support. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't support the NBC, ABC, the Fox, whatever, those bigger affiliates that are owned by some unmelanated people. Now, I'm not against it, because
I'm gonna say it. Stop supporting them motherfuckers.
Well, now you can say it though, but see, I'm on a network that is not owned by Black folk, but I appreciate that as an outlet. But there's balance, you see, and I appreciate the fact that I'm also associated with a outlet that is owned, controlled, and blessed, because it is under Black ownership. And the song that was one of Billie Holiday's, the great jazz vocalist, one of her signature songs was God Bless the Child That's Got His Own. And I own PulseBeat Media, so I own the media outlet, but the outlet in terms of the distribution in which people can see it. It's like you're on YouTube. We don't own YouTube, but you own your platform.
Exactly. I got you. I know exactly what you're saying. So what is it? An entertainment show? Is it more politically based? When people want to tune in, what can they look forward to?
Well, you know what? We cover arts, entertainment, and culture, lifestyle, and travel. And so we're flexible. So we've covered everything. We cover celebrity that would be the bigger names. I've interviewed everybody from Michael Jackson to Whitney Houston and everybody in between. And those are the legends, but I've interviewed them. I've been doing this for a long time because I used to work for Black Entertainment Television, as a matter of fact. So I've interviewed, I mean, the question in terms of the Black community would be, who have I not interviewed? But I've interviewed all of the legends. And so we like to cover people, of course, that everybody would know. And then I like to interview people who merit the spotlight, but then always get it and we can give it to them. So when you watch our show, we're just a very diverse show within the very broad spectrum of arts, entertainment, and culture. I always like to integrate the ancestors if I can. And so I'll spotlight a Nancy Wilson, or I'll spotlight a Nat King Cole. But then again, I'll also spotlight a Big Sean, or I'll spotlight somebody that is currently hot, like a Rihanna. So I like to mix it something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, which is the formula for a successful marriage. And when I say something blue for my show, I'm talking about B.B. King.
So let me ask you this: black or white Michael Jackson you interviewed?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Black or white Michael Jackson? Which one did you interview?
Both. I interviewed Michael Jackson when he was melanated, and that was in Washington, D.C. He was sitting at a table with, I remember, Marlena Shaw, the jazz vocalist, may she rest in peace, and the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And that was in D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus when he was melanated. And then when I interviewed him after being affected by what they said was some skin condition, which I still question that, but hey, I don't know his health.
Vitiligo.
Yeah, that's what purportedly he had, or that's what he said he has, but I don't know his medical condition. But he was a very nice guy, very nice. But at that time, he didn't have any color in his skin, and he reminded me, if I may be so blunt, and Mike, if you're listening in heaven above, he reminded me kind of the Joker in the Batman. You know, just pale. The skin was without color. It was a little eerie.
I never heard that one before. I'm sorry, bro. Okay, so Whitney, was this pre-Bobby Brown or post-Bobby Brown, Whitney?
It would have been both pre and post. Now, I'll tell you, when I first met her, I broke the record for BET, which was when she introduced Hold Up the Light that she recorded. It was a gospel tune that she recorded with BB and CeCe Winans. So I was the person that broke that on BET, and nobody had that story. But Whitney wouldn't talk to me. And she said, I'm not talking to anybody from the national press. Well, I was working for the Michigan Chronicle. And I says, well, I'm working for the Michigan Chronicle. Can you talk to me no, I'm not going to talk to you. And then I met, at that time, her manager, Robin Crawford, who people may have read about their relationship along the way. But I met her as Whitney's personal manager, and she was very nice to me, and she said that I will make sure that Whitney Houston will talk to you. So after the event, she brought Whitney to talk to me, and I told her, she said, okay, what do you want to know? I said, it's too late now. I said, you had a chance for me to interview you, but you blew it. I didn't say blew it though, but I said it's too late because the crew actually it was snowing and they broke down all their equipment, and I wasn't going to ask them to come back into the venue. So I told her, I said that it's too late now for me to interview you. And I said, but our paths may cross again and there may be another opportunity. And now when I told BT I had done that, they wanted to fire me. They didn't. You know, I had an opportunity to.
I'm not going to lie, bro. Yeah, I would have fired you, bro.
But our paths did cross. At a Clyde Davis party, I had a chance to interact with her, and my mother was at that party. My mother is an entertainer by the name of Joe Thompson, and she's no longer here. She's in heaven above. My mother was the first person to sing the song for Once in My Life that was written by Ron Miller that Tony Bennett recorded first, and then Stevie Wonder made it a classic for Once in My Life, which I got a backstory on that. But my mother, I introduced Whitney Houston to my mother, and she hugged my mother and was very nice to her. So I got two sides of Whitney. I got the snappy Whitney, and then I have the remembrance of Whitney Houston being very nice to my mother.
I think Whitney just came off as just a very authentic individual.
Yes, and she was like a lot of entertainers. You know, when I talked about my uncle Walter was a PhD in linguistics, spoke Spanish, the first African American to teach foreign language at Wayne State. He was also a psychiatrist. And Whitney Houston is like so many entertainers that you hear about a lot of people in their circle, but you never hear about a psychiatrist. She should still be here. She had a lot of issues, as we all do. And I really wish that she would have had psychiatric intervention that could have helped her, because what a talent not to be here. And she died basically because of mental illness. But that's a whole nother discussion. And you never hear about her having received psychiatric intervention. And maybe she did, but I seriously doubt it.
I think they sent thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
But, anyway, okay, so here's a question I ask everybody that comes on the show. It has absolutely nothing to do with nothing, but here goes. You're sitting on a park bench, and God sits down next to you, and he or she says you can ask them one question. What would it be?
Wow, I've never been asked that question before. So God has asked me, you can ask one question.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one question would be, God, on this earthly journey, why do we have things that make us cry out of pain and heartbreak? That's what I would ask God. I would say, God, who is all controlling, why do we have to deal with the tears that come from pain and heartbreak? Which is to say, why do we have pain and heartbreak?
But would we truly understand happiness without that?
Probably not, but I'm selfish.
Even being selfish, though, being selfish, you have to be able to appreciate. Like, if all we could experience was happiness, happiness wouldn't exist.
Well, now that is a philosophical insight, but I think that if we only had good health, would we have to have bad health? They say experience is a dear school, but a fool knows of no other. So would we have to have bad health to appreciate good health, or can we just have good health? So I would argue that if we didn't have bad days, would we not appreciate good days? If I never saw ugliness, would beauty be any less? You know, it is what it is. It's kind of like, do you have to taste bad food to appreciate good food, or can you just have good food and just look at it as the ultimate blessing?
Definitely an interesting conversation to be had. Okay, so Mildred Gaddis, we got through Pulse Media,
Post Beat Media.
I'm sorry, Post Beat Media, PowerPoint Group. Where does that fit into the equation?
I'm glad. Another scoop. This, I have never in a media situation ever talked about the PowerPoint Group. So intellectually petty is intellectually, maybe you should change that word petty and call it intellectually gifted or something, because you're really hitting points that there's nothing petty about this discussion. So I need to ask you about the title, intellectually petty, because there's nothing petty about you. You're a deep thinker. You're hot. H-O-T,
Gee.
and that means that you are a higher order thinker. H-O-T, higher order thinker. Jobs, J-O-B-S. Okay, so the PowerPoint group is another side of what I do. When I graduated from Cornell, my background was in organizational behavior and human resource management.
Mhm.
So I give professional development presentations at Wayne County Community College District. That is because of this other side of me, which is rooted in organizational behavior, which is what I was academically trained to do at Cornell University. And I do that under the PowerPoint group. So I called it the PowerPoint group is because I thought that when I speak, I would like to say that among the things that people take away from whatever I have to present would be powerful points. So I said, oh, good, I'm going to call my group the PowerPoint group. And then I thought somebody said, well, that's trademarked. You know, it is trademarked if you write it as one word. And then that's what Microsoft PowerPoint. But if I break it up, which now I own that, Power Space Point, Greg Dunmore owns PowerPoint as one word, as a compound word. That's owned by Microsoft.
Yeah. Some weird shit, man. I'm sorry. That's way above my intellectual capabilities. I get what you're saying, but does a space really make that much of a difference? Apparently it does.
It does. And, you know, as they say so often, when one is eulogized, they say you have a beginning date that you were born, and you have an ending date that you will leave this earthly place. And those are not the two most important points. It's that space. What did you do in the space? So when I think metaphorically speaking of PowerPoint as one word, there's no space. But in my organization, there's the power, and then there's the point, and then there's the space in between. And that's where the energy comes from. That's where the power comes from, that will allow me to make the point that I know that needs to be made. It is what happens in the space in between.
I got you. Okay, so you get to pick any person in history to give your eulogy. Who would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh my God. Now, you know what? I'm going to take some of your questions, but I don't plagiarize. I'm going to say, now I'm only asking this question in the interview because of job, you know, because that is a great question. I've never been asked that question. I've never heard that question asked by anybody in my life. After you think you've heard everything, there's always something brilliant yet to be heard. I just heard something, audience, to ask the question, if you could pick one person to eulogize you, who would that be? And I would say the one person that comes to mind would be, I would want John Brown to eulogize me. John Brown. And John Brown was the white man that...
The abolitionist.
The abolitionist, yes. But what moves me is that during the demonic act of slavery, he would stop a white man, and he was white himself, and he would say, do you own a slave? And the white man would say, yes, brother, how many would you like to buy? And then John Brown would take his pistol and blow his head off and say, you are nothing but an agent of the devil. And so he symbolizes a lot of things for me. So I think I would like John Brown to eulogize me, because there's something about slavery that just, I can't even give you a word. It gets under my skin in a place that I thought, this is a white man that knew that to own a slave was, that equated to you being a devil. And so he would take the person out. He didn't play, you know, boom, he would shoot your head. You know, people don't talk about him that often, but that's really, what is it? Action speaks louder than words.
Yo, I would have. First off, that's the first time I've ever even thought of that question to ask. But secondly, yo, that's a crazy answer that I just caught me
Evil prevails
completely
when
off
good men
guard.
remain silent. Evil prevails when good men and women remain silent. And evil prevails when good men remain silent and take no action. This is why Donald Trump is the president, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Is it though? It's the same discussion. It's just years apart.
Right. It's the same discussion. You're right.
Um. Okay, so when people ask you about Detroit, what is it that you love the most?
What do I love the most about Detroit?
Yes.
Well, that's a good question. What do I love the most about Detroit? Because I technically didn't have a love affair. And I used to write for the Detroit News, a section called On Detroit, and people used to call me Detroit Magic because of the fact that I was always so pro-Detroit. But I've traveled all over the world, and I find Detroiters to be very fascinating. Detroiters are, on one level, some of the kindest, warm-hearted, beautiful people, and can be some of the most ignorant people I've ever met in my life. And so you see, it's a very interesting, and to be ignorant doesn't mean you can't be kind and sweet and wonderful.
Absolutely.
So the biggest problem I have with Detroiters would be that we don't know our own power. We're the blackest city of any community, but we don't know our own power, because if we ever knew our own power, we would be too much. Because when we get it right, nobody does it better than we do. But when we mess up, nobody well, I don't like to curse in this kind of platform, but I know you can, since you've been cussing on YouTube. Nobody fucks up more than we do. But nobody, when we get it right, does it better than we do. So what I love about Detroit is that we are a city. Somebody asked me once, where's the black section of Detroit? They were
Everywhere.
visiting Detroit. And when I told them start breathing, I thought that was the oddest question. I was downtown, and it was my cousin actually that was with the Black Expo. And he said he was staying at the Pontchartrain downtown. He says, where's the black section in Detroit? And he's not from here. And I thought, black section in Detroit? We've been spoiled because everything is black, and I love black people. I love being around black people. So what I love about Detroit is I love being around melanated people, black folk, African Americans, Negroes. I don't say the N word, but I can say it.
Niggas.
Okay.
I seen the chick once. She made she wasn't from Detroit, and she made a video for Instagram saying that she had never been in a restaurant where everybody was black until she got to Detroit. That's so fucking Detroit right there, that you just like your judge, your prosecutor, your attorney, and your homeboys will all be in the same fucking spot eating dinner.
Right. That's true. You know what? I was in Tokyo, and I'm not against the Japanese people, but they're lighter people. Like I said, when I was at Cornell, I am used to being around people who are brown to dark brown. Even though I know in terms of black people, we come in all different shades.
Right.
But I am used to being around people who are identifiably black people. And even though I am one that I embrace the diversity, and I love diversity, but I know that my energy, my vibe is motivated by being around people that have the blessing of being melanated. I use that term because, it is melanin in our skin that we've been made to feel is something less than spectacular. And when God blessed the first two humans on this earth, they would have been very dark-skinned people with very woolly hair. And we all humankind roots from two people that would be considered blue-black with woolly hair. They would be the Adam and Eve if you were to cast and be realistic about who Adam and Eve should be, they would be very dark-skinned people with woolly hair.
Nigga, that part, yes. And that ain't us saying it. That's white folk scientists.
Yeah.
Like you look that up. That ain't black folks saying that shit. That's white.
Saying what again? They're not saying what?
That white people saying is that the first person was black people.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. No, that's an important point. Yeah, that scientifically is being more spotlighted from white folks than black people. That's the truth. Just like I found out they had slavery. People don't know they had slavery in Detroit. I never knew that.
I didn't know that shit till I was like 40, bro.
I didn't know it either. I wasn't taught that. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize who the Macomb County is named after the largest slave-owning family in the state of Michigan. The Macomb family. Who knows who the Macomb family is, because we don't know our history. And I was a white person that unfolded that information, that Macomb is named after the family which happened to have been the largest slave-owning family in the state of Michigan, the Macomb family.
I had no idea until today.
Well,
that
most
moment.
of us don't know.
Yo. And so this is the type of shit I can expect when I check out Post Media.
This is true.
Oh,
and you know what? It's like Tina Turner said, you can have everything, but you cannot have my name. And it is PULSEBEAT. Okay. Not Post Media, but that's all right though, because see, that ends up making people even more sensitive to the name. When I'm correcting you on it, I love it, because that is indirectly going to make people remember the name more. It's PULSEBEAT, like your pulse and you beat. But so when you make the mistake and I'm correcting you,
which is
that
crazy.
actually is a blessing in disguise. So I thank you, Jobs.
Well, and it's clearly right there next to your name, and I keep fucking it up.
That's all right. That's all right, because God, you know, works in mysterious ways. So believe me, had you not said it wrong, people who are watching it, they're going to now subconsciously know. You don't say Post Media, you say PULSEBEAT, because of this interaction that we're having. So you think that I might be saying get it right? Nope. I'm saying that you actually are doing something that's putting a brighter spotlight on the branding of my company. I thank you, Jobs.
PULSEBEAT Media.
Right.
Okay, so Light Up Illinois. It's coming up this weekend, correct?
Yes.
Talk to me about. I had the honor and privilege of last year just being able to kind of walk around and film people and ask questions. I was looking forward to doing it this year, and I got scheduled to work, and I got to pay my light bill. I'm sorry, but yo.
Well, Light Up Illinois is really exciting, and I want to give a shout out to your producer, Carita Miller. She is fantastic. I love her. She is the daughter of Montez Miller, who is also very noted in the world of entertainment journalism. She's a photographer. She was one of the longtime producers at BET from Detroit, and it is her daughter that I'm working with a team of great people under the leadership of Rufus Bartell, who I call him the king of Illinois. They've branded Illinois, which happens to be history making, that there's no business district in this country that would be bordered by the real estate, from Sherwood Forest to the University District to just the housing stock that we take for granted that Black people live in the city of Detroit. Then you've got the business district of Illinois, which really is a very expansive. It goes into miles, but the branding of Light Up Illinois is based on 4 districts. They're calling it really TLC, which is the Illinois Collective, and that is from the Lodge all the way to 8 Mile, and it's in 4 sectors. It is they call it Live 6, then it's the University District by U of D, then you get into Live 7, which is from like 6 to 7. Then you get them from 7 to 8, which is the Avenue of Fashion. So they have this awesome festival, which is going to take place July 5th from noon until 8 p.m. And it's going to be basically in that from 7 to 8 Mile stretch of Livernois, but the other businesses too are going to be participating. And it is a great time. It's going to be music and food and people, and you're going to meet new people. You're going to get reacquainted with older people that, you know, you would have known from years gone by. And it is a fellowship. And it also, like I said, I love Black folks. And because I love Black folks means that I am able to love everybody. When you love yourself, it is easier to appreciate and love everybody. So everybody's going to come. Everybody is welcome. And I'm going to be hosting the official podcast, which will take place between noon and 7 p.m. And Karita's going to be on, and she's going to be talking about you jobs, because when I talk to her, she's going to talk about some of the wonderful things that she's doing. And I can't wait for us to sing your praises when she talks about the wonderful things that intellectually Petty Radio is doing. So I'm really excited by that. And like I said, it's going to be a great time. So everybody who's listening, make a point to just stop by, light up Livernois. It's a street festival, and it's in a history-making business district, and it's a good time, really. It's a good time because we really want Livernois to be a destination for tourists and for people in the Metro Detroit area, just like people go to Royal Oak, they go to Birmingham,
the Avenue Fashion is
Somerset Mall. They need to come to Livernois to shop, to play, to engage, and to be excited.
And I need y'all motherfuckers to know that even though they call it the Avenue of Fashion, it's a misnomer. They've got some wonderful fashion stores on there. The 313 store comes to mind, but they also have an art gallery. They also have a beauty supply store. They also have restaurants. They also have a spot where you can take your daughters to have tea, like fancied up. I've been in there. It's beautiful. They also have cigar shops. They have it's one of the most beautiful waves and seas of Black people that you will ever see in this country, and they all come in peace with money to spend on
you got that
Black
right
people.
And you know what, somebody told me, and let me say this point too, because I should say food trucks are very popular on the Avenue of Fashion. They have the Fork of Nigeria, which is a food truck that has the most beautiful, delicious, spiritually empowered cuisine from the continent of Africa, from Nigeria. And I'm thinking to myself that most Black people and non-Black people, we know about French food, we know about Chinese food, we know about Mexican food, we know about Polish food. And because we come from Africa, every humankind comes from Africa, ask most people about food that reflects any place on the continent of Africa, they cannot do it. Then I was talking to a white person, and they were saying, well, I want to shop in this Black business district, but I'm not Black. Will I be welcomed? And I said,
your money is always welcome.
Well, I know, but this was the mindset. And so then I told them, I said, well, look at it this way. Would you ever call a Chinese restaurant and ask them, I want to come to your Chinese restaurant, but I'm not Chinese. Will I be welcomed? And he said to me, oh, why I never looked at it that way? I said, well, look at it that way. If you come with love and respect,
that's what you're going to get.
And if you come with a checkbook, if you come with some cash, if you come with even a smile on your face, because there's power in a smile, you're going to be welcome. You're going to be embraced. We love you as much as you love us when we spend the billions of dollars that we spend outside of our community. Black folks are very good at spending money in other folks' establishments that don't reflect Black Americans. We've been doing it forever. So we just want reciprocity. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to Somerset or wherever you go, because I mean, Royal Oak, that's nice. Somerset is nice. But what I am saying is that I want the summer folk and the Royal Oak folk and the Birmingham and Groves Pointers to come to Livernois and not only respect what we have, but that other word that is so important, and that is revenue. Okay, be part of the revenue, be part of the respect, and be part of the revenue.
And don't forget,
cash flow.
the culture that y'all like to buy so much comes from the avenue of fashion and not Somerset.
Yes. Yes.
So we're gonna leave that. We're gonna leave that there. Any advice for a young brother? Let's say this young brother is on the east side of Detroit. He's on uh, Gratiot and Van Dyke, and he life is gave you some challenges early on, but you got some advice for this young king. What would
I guess,
it be?
yeah, you know what? Here's my advice. Okay. The saying is, money is the what? Or the root of all evil is what?
It's money.
Money. But then somebody said that it's not that money is the root of all evil. It is the love of money is the root of all evil, right? That's what they say. But then I take it another level. The root of all evil is being broke.
Is that part right there?
But the reason I pass it on to anybody that's going through something, as soon as I say the root of all evil, it's not money. The root of all evil is being broke. But as soon as I say broke, they automatically go to broke in terms of financial difficulty. When one is broke, you can be broke in terms of being brokenhearted. Mm-hmm. You can be broke in terms of a broken spirit. And then, of course, you can be broke in terms of your bank account.
Yes.
So this is what I pass on to anybody, that do those things that will build up your heart and your soul. And that is having a sense of, no matter what you're going through, that there's a power that comes from within. There's a power that comes from knowing this too shall pass. Yeah. And I inspire anybody to know that we're all blessed. Somebody said that, I'm looking for a blessing. I'm saying you're already blessed. Just the fact you can hear what I'm saying, just the fact you can ask for a blessing. The worst thing you can lose is not your eyesight or your ability to walk or your ability to talk. The worst thing you can lose is your mind. It's a blessing. And then financial empowerment comes from when you invest in knowing that the heart is something that is never to be taken for granted. And the soul is something that makes you a human. So
that's an interesting debate, though, because I don't know about losing. And I've been a nurse for over 30 years. Losing your physical functions, for me, is worse than losing your mind, because you don't realize you lost your mind, but you've lost your ability to move your legs or your hands.
Well, I think you're taking it more literally, because I think it's more, and you were right that, it's sort of like somebody told me, it's not true. Kids don't like candy. I say kids like candy. Well, I know a kid that doesn't like candy. And so when you nitpick it, yes, that's true. That when you nitpick it, but I think that what it is saying is that, yes, to lose the ability to talk, to see, nobody wants that. But I think it's a metaphor for, don't downplay your humanity comes from your ability to think. And you should exercise and appreciate and respect your ability to think. That comes from mind power. And when you say that the worst thing you can lose is your mind, just underscores that you can lose your sight, your ability to walk and talk. And of course, that would be miserable if you've had the blessing of the ability to talk and see. Yeah. No one wants to lose that. But I think that we sometimes, people exercise to get the body to look right. They end up wanting to have the flashiest car. They want to have the eyeglasses that are so sharp that is part of the vision, the blessing. But we downplay the greatest thing that is part of the human experience is that which comes from the intellect and the mind. So that's what it's really saying, is we should put great value on exercising our mind in the same way that we take great value in wanting to be on the cover of a magazine because we have the ideal body, but we don't really think in terms of having the ideal mind. And so we got to really put more value on developing the mind and the beauty of the mind and the appreciation of the mind, even though when you nitpick it, yeah, you're right. You know, you would be miserable if you had great mind power and you were sitting there, and if you had the ability to at one time walk and talk and you lost it, it would probably take you through a great depression. But that's because you're a very bright man, and I can see you have made a great lawyer.
I don't know about that, yo. But truly an honor. Love the conversation, man. I don't know if there's anything I can possibly do for you, but if there is, let me know, and we got you, yo. And shout out to Rita, man. Rita's so fucking dope. Best manager that I've ever encountered in my old ass life. So shout out to Rita. And shout out to you, bro. Yo, I'm still fucking enamored at Cornell.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that, like, yo, that's a huge fucking deal, bro.
It was a big deal, but you know what? I came from a background. My brother he's a graduate of Harvard, and he graduated in the same class with this man that you may know by the name of Barack Obama. They graduated together. So I came from this kind of mindset that, yeah, you know, I love it and I appreciate you, Jobs, because I sometimes downplay Cornell, but it is part of my journey. And so anything that's part of my journey that is being respected makes me feel good. So you've already done what I would ask you to do is you're making me smile. And there's something that is very spiritual from a smile. And so, you know, I'm watching your show, Intellectually Petty, and this Intellectually Petty Radio. You're really good at what you do. And I'm going to be watching you from now on. And I'm going to talk to you because I'm going to spotlight you on my television show. So we're going to do something to mutually support each other, because I don't know what your numbers are, but we should both be listening. I have a listening audience of a zillion people. So because you're good at what you do. No, you're not even good at what you do. You're great at what you do. Nobody can do a better job than you at what you do. And the same as me. Somebody said nobody can be my mother said it. Nobody can be a better you than you. So always be yourself. And I can tell you being yourself. And so I'm so glad that I now can say that I know you. I'm a name drop. Can't wait to tell people when they say, what did you do today? I'm going to say, I was on Intellectually Petty Radio with the great job.
I'll take that. Yes, I'll take that. Oh, no. I don't know if I deserve it, but fuck it. I'm not going to turn it down either.
No, you do, because your interviewing style, you're natural, you're real. And I like that. You're not affected. You're speaking from your heart and soul. And you're just so relaxed. So you really are a great interviewer. You are not a good interviewer. You are a great interviewer.
Yo, the check is in the mail. Appreciate you, bro.
All right. I'm speaking truth to power.
Yo, you have a phenomenal day on purpose, man. And thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, no doubt. Yo, this has been a conversation with Greg Dunmore. It doesn't get much better than that. Anyway, y'all have a dope ass day. I'll be back in about an hour. We got Black Business Buzz. And if you're unfamiliar with Black Business Buzz, that's where we select, handpicked from across the globe for Black businesses at random. Okay, not really random, but we want to highlight Black businesses, especially in this economy. We need to, and I am not saying don't shop wherever, don't go to Target though, fuck them. However, I'm not saying don't go wherever you want to go, but your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice should be a Black business if you happen to be a Black person. We got to do more for each other, by each other, with each other, and we'll be back in about an hour. This is Jobs. It's been another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio. I'm out. Peace.